Hey everybody, Alien X Gaming here with another interview with one of the YouTubers that I like to watch. I got PhD Tony with us tonight. He is part of the Forward Beardsman. He's got his own channel where he creates some content, very intelligent stuff. But it's a pleasure to watch that kind of stuff. How you doing tonight, Tony?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you?
Not too bad, man. Well, I guess it's afternoon for you, but night for me. So what's it like in the future? No, I'm just kidding. um, all right. So first question. It's probably obvious, but what's your first name?
My first name is Tony. Yes. So,
Okay.
it's truth in advertising in this case.
There you go. How old are you?
I'm 53.
Awesome. And where are you from?
I'm from Australia. I grew up in a small, by Australian standards, it's reasonably large, but by American standards, a small city just north of Sydney called
Okay.
Newcastle.
Called Newcastle. Okay, cool. Do you have any siblings? Any family that lives by you?
I do actually. I've got a few brothers and a sister. They all live in the local region, and my parents have moved out into the countryside. And That's what they're doing with their retirement. I think the plan was originally my dad is a very keen amateur astronomer, but turns out that they moved to a place that doesn't have a very good viewing, so
Oh,
it hasn't worked out for them
oh
that well. But
that sucks. um, let's see. Are you married? Do you have any kids?
I'm in the process of getting divorced at the moment. I do not have any children. I have a stepson. But yeah, that's where that's at.
All right. We shall move on. Pets. Do you have any pets?
Unfortunately, no. I love cats and dogs, but I don't see the reason why one's better than the other. But I only live in a small apartment at the moment, and I don't have any. I don't have enough space to sort of keep a pet.
Okay.
It'd be a bit weird. So,
Fair enough.
well, it'd be too constrained.
I gotcha. And, obviously pets need some time or some room to roam, I think I've
Yeah,
talked to you a
that's
couple of
exactly right.
times. I've talked to you a couple of times about my cats. Um,
hmm
okay. Let's see what's next on the list here. I got, what was your first job?
My first job. Well, that depends on what you mean by job. Do you mean full-time job or part-time job?
Whatever your first actual
Uh,
paying job was as a kid.
so my first paying job as a kid, I refereed soccer.
Okay.
I was a soccer referee, which I don't know. Looking back, you come in for a fair amount of abuse and criticism back then too. So still continuing. I don't know.
Hmm. All right. What are you currently doing as far as work?
So I'm a research fellow. I'm currently transitioning between positions, but soon I'll be starting work on a satellite data processing about Earth's gravity field.
Cool.
So yeah, I'm in between the two positions at the moment.
Awesome. All right. What kind of hobbies do you have aside from creating content on YouTube?
Well, I read a lot. I read a lot of history, and I play a board game called Go. In Korea, it's called Baduk, and in China, it's called Weiqi. Uh, I'm reasonably good at it, but yeah, spend a lot of time studying for it and playing games and all that sort of thing. I also play some role-playing games. I was for a while playing playing Dungeons and Dragons with Fight the Flat Earth and Batch and Vishanti and Charisma, but that may not be possible with the new job.
Mm.
Just so I might have to give that up. But normally I don't. Normally I don't play D&D anyway. There are lots of games out there, and I play different ones.
Cool. All right. Let's see. What would be your biggest pet peeve with I don't know, people on YouTube or stuff like that? Like, I mean, I know that you're an advocate against idiots on the Flat Earth, syndicate. Um,
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. But what really gets your goat?
Well, what gets my goat actually is the disdain for the emotional well-being of those around you, and you see it. It's not just this is not just a feature of the flat Earth community. There are plenty of people in the debunking community who don't show any concern for the mental health of the people they're interacting with. And I think as a society in general, we need to be more mindful of it. But it's very easy when you're talking with somebody online to just forget that this is a human being at the other end of this
Sure.
line of communication and just rip into them. And in order to facilitate that, people will interpret the stuff that they read or hear in the most uncharitable way possible.
Mm-hmm.
And if you try and tell them, well, actually, you're overreaching here in order to, because you want to be in a position of self-righteousness, they just that just fires them up and they get more angry. And specifically, there are quite a few people in the debunking community that I think this applies to, and I think that in general, as people online, in general as people in a society, but certainly as people in the debunking community, we should be more responsible for what we say and how we say it,
Mm-hmm.
and we should be more even keeled in our assessment of people around us, rather than looking for crusades to launch into.
Yeah, I saw a couple of videos that you had posted. I'm not going to get into that right now, but that is
Yeah.
that is a very touchy but very serious thing. Yeah, I guess I'll just say that. But
Yeah.
so
Well, I think mental. There's a lot of stigma associated with mental health, and when that is allowed to persist, people say, "Well, I'm not responsible. I'm not responsible for the impact of my words or actions on the people around me." Well, actually, you are. And if you don't want to be, well, that's antisocial behavior.
oh sure.
So I think that we need to accept that every time we talk, every time we interact, we're interacting with somebody else. They may be going through something very, very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
The particular issue in question may have punched some buttons for them, and you need to, and it may be punching some buttons for you. So you need to sort of step back
Mm-hmm.
and just assess, dispassionately, objectively, what's going on here. And I think that if we did that a bit more often, it's like our political discourse, our social discourse would be less polarized. It would be less, you don't agree with me, therefore you're an evil human being, and don't have any right to self-expression or, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I just think we need to step back from that and try and get to a point of all working to make society as good as we can make it, or to make our community as good as we can make it.
Right. And it seems like, I mean, I know that I'm relatively new to the community, but there's a lot of consistency with people showing up. You see the same names, you start to get familiar with people, you kind of screw around in the chat with people, at least I do. I know I say a lot of stupid shit, but that's fun. I have a lot of fun doing it.
It is.
But
Yeah, as long as everybody's on the same page about having fun,
exactly.
like I've got no problem with that. But you kind of need to make sure that you know the person you're interacting with well enough to get away with that.
Exactly.
That that you're having fun. Because if you just come in to a complete stranger and start laying into them in the same way that in the same way you do to sort of the 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 crap that I give Team Skeptic during his gaming channels, I wouldn't just wander up to a random stranger and start doing that. I
Right.
feel comfortable that I can get away with that because Team and I know one another, and and he knows how. He's actually a way better computer game player than I let on. So nobody tell him I said that. But B, he's just an impressive guy in a lot of ways, and I feel very lucky that sort of as part of this, I've been able to establish a relationship with him because he's a really worthwhile guy.
That's awesome. Yeah, I like Team a lot. Okay. So let's see here. So next question is, can you tell us a little bit about your educational background? I know your name is PhD Tony. Where did that come from? What do you specialize in as far as education? I guess I don't know if that would be the proper terms.
Yeah.
But.
So, obviously I went to high school, finished year 12, went to university. My speciality was mathematics,
Yeah.
with some philosophy, like philosophy of mathematics, philosophy of science, uh, uh, advanced logic, that sort of background. So primarily mathematics. I graduated with honors. Got a job as a research assistant, and then started a PhD in geophysics, where my speciality is something called glacial isostatic adjustment, which is changes in surface load across through glacial times, and those surface loads cause deformation. We use that deformation to determine the properties of Earth's interior and the history of the load changes. So the history of the ice sheets, the magnitude of sea level changes between glacial cycles, and that sort of thing. It has a bunch of connections to Earth's gravitational field, Earth's rotational properties. There are a bunch of fields that this connects with, and everybody else regards my discipline as kind of noise that needs to be removed so that they can analyze what they want to talk about. But it's nice because people like having experts around who can tell them about this sort of stuff.
That's awesome. All right. Let's see. We're going to move on to some of the content that you are part of creating on YouTube here. First off, you are one of the 4 Beardsmen of the Apocalypse.
Yes, that's right.
How long have you been doing that?
It's hard to say. So, 6 months, 7 months. So Johnny O, J.L. Warren, Irish Demon, and myself sort of gravitated together by chance, and we ended up on a stream together, and it just worked really well. And Irish, who is always sort of the first with wild ideas, said, "Why don't we just do this regularly? Why don't we do this?" Why don't we just chat about whatever occurs to us every week, and people will come in and watch. And weirdly, he turned out to be right. But they're a lot of fun to hang out with, and they've got some very interesting perspectives on stuff.
Sure.
Though Irish is frustrating at times. Let's just leave it at that.
Okay, that actually kind of leads into the next question: is who's the most fun for you to argue with on the 4 Beardsmen of the Apocalypse? Would it be Irish or what?
Yeah, it would be Irish. They've each got their own characteristics. So uh, Irish is the most mischievous, and he'll take absolutely outrageous positions just to fire up people. Um, uh, uh, JL is the most passionate, I think, and he gets, he gets into sort of a very rapid fire stream of consciousness style of arguing. Um, but he's thought heavily about these issues,
Hmm.
and so he has very strong opinions. And Johnny O is kind of the quiet, speak quietly and carry a big stick. He doesn't necessarily commit to full on debates with the alacrity that I do or that JL does. But when he does, he's got a lot of stuff that's well worth listening to. He's also got a great maturity that he brings to these issues. So there is a contrast in styles there. It may seem like we just agree with one another all the time, but I think that there is a spectrum of personalities and styles
Sure.
to the Beardsman, and that's why it works.
Sure. Would you say that you are the smartest of the beardsmen?
Uh, um, This is going to sound arrogant, but yes, I would.
All right.
But uh, I, uh, you know, I am not the smartest person I know by any stretch of the imagination, but I am quite smart, and I think that it would be false modesty to assert otherwise. And But that is not to say that Demon, JL, and Johnny O are, I think, very bright people. I think they're very smart. They're very quick with their responses, and they've also got a variety of ways of looking at things and expressing them. And I think that I just find them really, really stimulating to talk to in the sense that they'll always be challenging. I never feel like, oh my God, I wish these boring ass people would stop prattling their nonsense so that I could say something important. That it's not boring to be around them, and I consider being around really stupid people does get boring.
Sure.
So yeah.
All right.
Anyway.
Okay, so you also create a lot of content on your channel with, I believe it's Professor Phil Bell. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct. We've got a weekly podcast that's set up on Thursday afternoons US time and Friday mornings my time, before anybody has to get to work. And we discuss various aspects of science. Unfortunately, Phil wasn't able to make it last week and won't be able to make it this week. But we will be back. He's just a busy man. He's been invited to do various things and various important things. Let me stress. So being in demand, he can't always make it to my
Sure.
To my stuff, but looking. Like I say, normally we pick a topic. The next one is supposed to be about Doppler shifts in sound and in light waves and what we can tell from it. So, yeah, it's a excuse me, but but that's always very stimulating. And again, sort of, I've come from a very theoretical, mathematical background. Phil has a very practical way of looking at it. So again, there's a dichotomy there. There's a divergence of opinion, and we're hoping to get on other guests like Blue Marble Science and perhaps Team Skeptic if we can fit into his schedule.
Yeah, I saw a couple of the episodes with Team chiming in, and it was kind of cool.
Yeah, he has a lot to say. It's one of the things I respect
Awesome.
about team is sorry. Uh, it just occurred to me that I drifted off. But one of the things I respect about Team is that he has actually quite a substantial basis in science, and he's quite well versed in it, and he's also reading up on it all the time. He's quite curious about it. So there's a lot of intellectual, there's a lot of it. I think people will be surprised by just how intellectually impressive Team is, because he's obviously very funny. He's clowning around a lot, but he's actually not a dude you want to try and slide scientific misinformation past, because he's very much on the ball.
Oh yeah, yeah, and he has no problem calling people out. So
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So he's and he's very good at it as well.
absolutely. Okay, so there's some other things on your channel. What kind of content would you say that you like doing the most on your channel? Because I've seen some scientific videos that you've put out yourself. I've seen the ones with Phil Bell. There's a couple other ones that are on there. What would you describe as your channel? You know what I mean?
So mostly I try to present basic science, and dissect stupid arguments that I see presented, like there are flat Earth arguments, there are climate denialist arguments. I just try and explain that may seem plausible, but actually it's BS, and we know it's BS because of this. And I don't necessarily go too much into the details of observational campaigns, because I consider actually the science behind the observations to be the important thing. It's not so much. I came across a statement recently that I really like. It's not so much knowing stuff that's important; it's understanding stuff.
Sure.
And so, what I think my channel is trying to do is help people to understand the basics of the science that's being discussed and how it doesn't operate the way anti-science people say.
Very cool. That is awesome. Okay. Let's see here. I know you mentioned earlier you don't really get a chance to be watching YouTube so much, but what was your favorite kind of content to watch? Anyway, yeah, what was your favorite content to try to watch?
Well, I'm very fond of watching the late night television shows, so Seth Meyers and Stephen Colbert. I watch a lot of English stuff, QI and that sort of thing. So that was my favorite sort of stuff to watch, is stuff that's informative but also funny at the same time. I find it a lot easier to sort of process and retain information in that way.
Okay. Let's see here. Who was your largest influence in deciding what kind of content to create?
Well, actually the flat earthers were, because what I was seeing was the same stupid arguments being presented again and again and again, and basically and what there wasn't there was just well, that's bullshit and here's why. I'm not interested in debating with you. I'm not interested in discussing it with you. Here's the science, here's how it works. Learn.
Yeah, just very matter of fact,
Yeah, that's right. And so, and there was sort of a gap there. I didn't see, people like Simon Dan, for instance, or Conspiracy Cats. They do a lot of great, education, but they always do it in response to a flat earther video.
Sure.
And my thinking was, well, I don't need the flat earther for this. Because they're only going to say something stupid, right. And we can do without that.
Yeah, you're gonna get the biggest argument of nuh-uh,
Yeah. Yeah, that's right.
Oh God.
Um, yeah, it's and let's be honest, the vast majority of flat earthers are lost causes. So the main, you're not going to reach out to them. The main audience are people who want to learn something. And so there you go. You just present it in a way that is easily digestible for that audience.
Hmm.
And so that's kind of the way that I've tried to design my channel. People tell me my presentations are boring, and that's a fair enough criticism. I don't try and make them that funny.
In
Um,
my honest opinion, though, of them, from the ones that I've watched, it's not that they're necessarily boring, but you do make it easier for people to understand that may not be science savvy. Okay, I mean, like your explanations are detailed enough that somebody that doesn't know shit can understand where you're going with everything. You know what I mean? So that's awesome.
yeah, well, I mean, that to me is sort of the element of science, and it's one of the things that I noticed coming into this is that there are a lot of really, really, really good science communicators already working in this field. I don't think people necessarily appreciate just how good a science communicator, conspiracy cats, and blue marble science are.
Hmm.
They really are extraordinarily good science communicators, the both of them. And speaking as a professional scientist, the knowing, like I say, knowing something or understanding something and being able to communicate it to other people are different things. There are plenty of really, really bright professors who cannot give a lecture to save their lives. And so this community has kind of been blessed in that sense, in that there are some really, really good communicators out there. But I'm trying to sort of distill, when you're dealing with a complicated subject, I think that it's best to break it down into as simple a set of components as I can.
Hmm.
And I try and do that while remaining rigorous. So there's a delicate balance there, because if you oversimplify something, you're going to make misstatements. You're going to be inaccurate in what you say.
Sure.
So I want it to be simple enough to be easy to follow, but not so simple that I'm getting stuff wrong.
All right. Only a couple more. What kind of content can we look forward to you working on right now?
So I'm working on two pieces of content. One that I hope will destroy the relative density argument once and for all, and I'm also moving towards geochronology. So explaining how we know how we determine the age of the Earth. I've noticed a lot of misinformation and misrepresentation about the age of the Earth, mostly from young Earth creationists, who are claiming that science backs them up. No, absolutely, science does not back up young Earth creationism. You can believe what you want, but you can't claim that young Earth, that the statement that the Earth is only 6,000 years old has
Yeah.
any scientific validity whatsoever,
I
because
was
it
gonna
doesn't.
6,000 year old Earth is that's a rough one to try to digest.
Yeah, and it's to me it sets the table for all of the other anti-science BS that is out there.
Sure.
It requires it, just like flat Earth. It requires this gigantic malicious conspiracy theory. It preys on the ignorant and the arrogant. Increasingly people are being encouraged to vote in line with their religious convictions. The more outlandish and ill-informed those religious convictions are, the more trouble democracy will find itself in.
Fair enough, man. All right. Do you have any specials coming up or anything like a collaboration with anybody coming up here?
Not really. I was on a stream with Hugh earlier today. I think my initial novelty is kind of worn off, and so yeah, I'm the people are going back to doing their own thing, and running their own streams, which is fine, as it should be. But I think perhaps Conspiracy Cat said something about an educational, an interview about educational procedures and that sort of stuff. But that's all I've got. And I did want to catch up with Seek Truth, Speak Truth, and have a chat with him at some stage.
Cool.
But no specials or anything like that. No.
All right. All right. That's really all I got for us tonight. Is there anything that you would like to talk about that I didn't ask?
Actually, no. I think you covered it all. I got to say everything I want to say. Normally, I like to, one of my passions is raising the awareness about our responsibility to the mental health of the people around us. And you gave me every opportunity to hold forth on that. So, yeah.
Cool.
So I'm well content. Thank you very much.
I really appreciate you taking the time to do this. I'm sure that a lot of people are going to get a little bit more insight into you, which is just awesome.
Yeah.
So I really do appreciate your time and what you've done with the community, and I look forward to speaking to you further, in the future, and just seeing what else you come up with, and how the community reacts to everything that we wind up doing. So I really do appreciate that. So thank you. So
thank you for the opportunity, and I hope that people enjoy our discussion.
Awesome. If you guys did like and enjoy it, hit the like button, subscribe. I'm gonna have links down below for PhD Tony. I can't really do a link to the 4 Beardsmen of the Apocalypse because they do switch between the 4 channels of them, which would be Jail Warren, The Plot Hole, and Irish Demon, and of course PhD Tony's channel. So just check them out, see what you got, see if you guys like their little bantering and that kind of stuff. But it's definitely good content. So once again, thank you, sir. Everybody else,
No problem.
have a great day. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.